Okay, good evening, Global Business Communication. This is our fifth week, even though it should be our fourth week, but we have done a makeup class. So remember, we're kind of 1 week ahead of some other classes. So this is week number 5. That means we are 1/3 of the way through the semester, and I think so far we can say it's been a success. Tomorrow, your assignment is due. I will be uploading this lecture on Monday, and your second assignment is due. I will give you a break. I'm sure this will be a popular decision on my part that this week there will be no assignments, so you can have a break, and then we will return to doing an assignment again the following week. So please submit your email with a file about a great speech and analyzing it to my email address by Monday, April 6th. Now, there is a PDF uploaded to the website. That PDF has information. I entitled it April Class Update. All you have to do is click on the link. It opens up a PDF file which updates you on the decisions the university has been making and how the semester has gone for us so far. It spells out in detail how to submit your assignments properly. And coincidentally, that is the main topic of our lecture today. We're going to talk about electronic messages, electronic communication. The main topic for today's lecture is going to be writing formal emails. This lecture will be shorter than the ones I've done so far because for this class and for the British and American culture class, I've decided to split each week into 2 parts like I would normally. So we normally would have a class on Monday and one on Friday. So this will be part 1 of week 5, and there will be a second part that will be uploaded on Friday. So this first section will be about emails, and the second section that I upload later this week is going to be primarily about texting and about using communication in sort of like a dialogue and conversational writing electronically rather than formal writing, which is what we use emails for. So fundamentally, there is a huge difference between sending a text and sending an email. Of course, you can send a long text and write it like you would an email, and you can also write an email the way that you would write a text. And people do that all the time. And that's the difference between what we call a formal email or a professional email and a casual email. So a casual email might be more similar to the way that you would text one of your friends, where you don't address the person. There's not really a salutation, and you just say, "What's going on, man?" ? That is a text. You could send it by email, but that's not really what email is for. So email frequently is relied upon to send something that would resemble more a letter, right? So long time ago, before all of you were born, and when I was young, people still sent letters. And when you sent a letter, it would take a long time to be delivered in the past. If you go back far enough, it might take a month or more. If you were sending a letter from Asia to, let's say, United Kingdom, I don't know, you're sending one from India to the United Kingdom, it might take 3 months for your letter to get there. So you better make sure that it says exactly what you want to say and that you don't offend anyone. You would be super careful about every single word that you used in that correspondence, because after 3 months, the next chance, you only get a chance once every 3 months, assuming that a boat or a caravan has taken that mail every 3 months. Maybe that's not the case. So when you corresponded very little and the messages needed to be clear and you only had one chance to get the message through, then you had to be as formal as possible and follow all the rules and make sure, and people still misunderstood even though all that care was taken. So it's similar, I guess. The formal email now is what we have. You can send it instantly, but before you send it, I always highly recommend that you look it over at least once. If you're applying for a job, especially, or you're dealing with a client or a colleague, a coworker, or your boss, or your professor, looking it over at least once to make sure that you haven't made a mistake and error is always a good idea. So just being one of the fundamental aspects of email writing is just you need to proofread what you write. If you're writing a professional email or a formal email, you have to take care to write it properly, and you have to check it. That's just a basic rule. So in what situation would you want to write a formal email? I've already sort of said to you, if you're writing to somebody in authority, that a professor or somebody who is your manager or a boss, or you are applying for something, certainly you would want to be formal. I'm pretty relaxed about this, but I think for this class especially, I'm going to be less relaxed. One of my professors when I was in university insisted that if you didn't, have a salutation and have a body and a conclusion and a signature in your email, if you didn't follow those rules, that he would just disregard your email. So he would just be unresponsive. If you didn't follow the rules, he would just ignore you. And he said that on the first day of school, of class in university. This is my third year, I believe. I won't tell you the professor's name. He will probably never find out, but he was very strict. And I understand why he was strict, because now I'm a professor. And when you get, sometimes this semester, because of the online stuff, I'm not trying to bellyache or complain about the volume of emails that I get, because it's part of my job. But the email load this semester is nothing like anything I've experienced in my life. Last weekend, when the British and American culture class was submitting, there's 66 students in that class. Over the weekend, there was a torrent of emails. I got almost 100 in one day. In order to keep up, in order to be efficient, a formal email is very helpful to me. It prevents me from spending my entire day trying to figure out what's going on. So that's the fundamental. If you're trying to contact somebody, again, like somebody who's important or somebody who's dealing with a lot of emails, the more formal and professional you are, the more careful you are, the more likely you will be to have a positive response. And maybe some of you have realized that already, because I don't respond to every email. I don't say thank you to everyone when they submit an assignment. But if somebody writes, "Dear Professor, this is my assignment. I completed it this weekend. How are you doing? I know it's a hard time for all of us, but I appreciate your effort in the lectures, and I think you're doing a good job. Have a nice day. Sincerely," I'm going to keep using the same name that I used as an example, Kim Sujin. I don't think I have a Kim Sujin, but that's my imaginary student this semester. So if you write like that, you're much more likely just to have me say, "Thank you very much for sending your assignments on time. I appreciate it. I hope you have a good day too," because you've done it exactly the way. You've made my life easier, so I appreciate it. So that's the essence of the formal email. Let me just throw out a very simple example. Let's say you're going to have a meeting, okay? You're working for a company, you're going to have a meeting. A formal email would say something like, "Our meeting is scheduled for April 17th at 10 a.m. All students must all coworkers must attend, or all department team members must attend. Your project updates are required." Okay, that has all the details. It's full sentences and grammatically complete, and it provides all the details that you need in a normal, standard grammatical form. If you say something like required meeting December 5th, 10 o'clock, updates needed, see you there, smiley face, emoji, smiley face, squiggle, squiggle, carrot, there's all Koreans have certain ones that they like to do. When you throw all these symbols in there, it just, I know a lot of people do it, and people use Kakao Talk for business. People use it to communicate all the time. So I'm not saying it's not useful, but there's a time and a place for everything. And when you send me an email, I'm not going to hold it against you if you put squiggle, squiggle, asterisk, smiley face, carrot, have a nice day at the end. But it's just, it comes across as a little bit less serious. Let's put it that way. I don't want to say it's not a good idea sometimes, but I'm just going to, be less serious because you are being less serious. I'm not going to say it's silly or stupid, because it's not. The humor and being relaxed and easygoing has its place too. But that place usually is in the chat room or by text, and that just it communicates a different attitude. If you said something like, our project is due tonight at midnight, and if we don't do it, the client is going to cancel the contract. Happy face, crying eyes, Korean characters, asterisk, squiggle, squiggle. I think it might give the wrong impression. It's like, what time is it now? 9:15? We got 3 hours to get this done properly. If we don't get it done, we're going to lose this client, and our company's going to lose money. It's not the time for emojis and squiggles. You know what I mean? So just be aware that there's a time and a place for those kind of things. And if you're applying for a job or you're communicating about serious business, it's not the best approach. So that's just the type of language and the inclusion of those kind of characters is something that you have to consider. The subject line is something I've very, very, I think the correct word in English is harped. If you ever heard somebody say that, harping is like kind of squawking like a bird and yelling and nagging. I'm not trying to bother you, my students, by repeating myself. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you heard me say student number in the subject line every time, because that's, if you identify yourself, all I have to do is just type in. It's so magical. I didn't ever think I didn't realize I could do this until this semester, and I realized that this is what I should have done all along. If you send your student number in the subject line, I punch it in, it searches my email box, and it spits out everything you've ever sent me. Not even just this semester. I've been putting in numbers, and stuff from 3 years ago has come up from students that I've had before, and I was like, oh, I know who this person is, because I haven't seen any of you guys in person. I don't, girls and guys, excuse me. I meant by guys, I mean all of you. But you young ladies and young men, I haven't seen you in person. So unless your profile picture is included, and that's not necessary, I have no idea what you look like. But sometimes when the name pops up and I see that you've taken my class before, it triggers a memory, and I realize I've taught you before and I know who you are. So that's nice. So all of these things have relevance, and they help efficiency. And really, that's one of the fundamental things I want to help you to do this semester. All the things that I'm talking about, the great speeches, when we're talking about texting, and we're talking about misinformation and all that kind of stuff, one of the themes of this class is efficiency and effectiveness, right? What are we trying to do? Why is an English professor teaching global business communication anyway? Well, partly because I've taught lots of business classes at LG, and I've taught at Lotte Chemical. When I first came to Korea, I taught at KEPCO and all kinds of, I've taught at Samsung and the nuclear Carey. I've taught all over the place. I've had lots of experience with teaching business class, but the thing that we're trying to do this class is the thing that I often get asked to do with executives is how to use English well, how to deliver a message that's clear, whether it's to international an international audience or within the company, or whether it's related to publishing or researching or directives or public notices. How can I construct language that will be effective and deliver the message that I want? I've actually done a lot of proofreading for even some of the signs around Yusung. A few of those signs that the Yusung Gucheng has published and posted around. In particular, there's a sign that says, don't let your dog off the leash, and pick up, what the dog leaves on the ground behind, with the waste. Clean up after your dog when you walk your dog outside. If you ever see that English sign, it's in Korean and English. That was me. That's my attempt at being efficient and direct to let foreigners know, as well as Koreans, in English as a translation of the Korean message, that they need to follow the rules. Okay? So you'd be surprised how often this becomes necessary. And if you do it right the first time and you're effective, then you save your time and everyone else's. And that's really the name of the game, right? You've all heard the expression, time is money. And that is true. So that's what the object of this is, to help you to be correct and to give a good positive impression, but also to avoid sending 5 emails back and forth. And a few of you in this class, as well as some of the other classes, you've done that with me, where I've told you something and then it's come back and I've told you again, and 5 emails are never better than 1. That's just a fact. So the subject line being clear and identifying exactly what you want is fundamental as well. It's more than just a title. It's like a tag. So if you tag like my website, for example, if somebody searches for Korean heroes, or they search for English conversation, the Google is going to use an algorithm to pull up my page and let other people visit it. If I don't tag it with those keywords, nobody will ever find it. And that's kind of what I mean. If you don't have a subject line that identifies clearly what your email is about, don't expect somebody to read it or pay attention to it or to take you seriously or to even find it. If they're getting bombarded by hundreds of emails like me and the subject line is not appropriate, they might just not see it. You run the risk of just being overlooked. And so make sure that you write a good subject line that's very relevant to what the main purpose of your email is. Okay, so once you get into your email itself, you're going to want to do the subject line and then start your email. A salutation is the thing that indicates that you have good manners, right? This is an impression thing. If you don't write a salutation, it's not the end of the world, but that's always expected. And it shows good manners, and it shows your education. You're signaling that you're educated and you know how to do these things right. And it also shows your respect for the person. So in my case, I say the person's name, or I say dear person's name, or I say dear students, or I say dear student if it's one person. In your case, it should be dear professor or dear Professor Sullivan. Whatever the title is, dear human resources director. If you don't know who the person is, you can use a formal salutation like to whom it may concern. It's one of my favorites. Or you can identify the person. If you don't know the exact person, but you know the group, you can say to the English department, or to the committee on the Asia Business, Journal of Asian Business, or something like that. And then there's the informal version, which is, hey guys, or hi class, and I've been known to do that too, but again, there's a time and a place for that. When I did my April class update, that was a file, not an email, so there was no salutation really at the beginning. But I certainly didn't say, "What's up, guys? Here's a lot of rules you have to follow," because you're not going to take me seriously if I start my writing like that. Instead, I start formally at the beginning and I continue the same tone and the same level of seriousness throughout the PDF until it's done. So again, make sure you read that PDF because it has a lot of it has the guidelines that you need to communicate with me effectively, and these overlap with what I'm talking about today anyway. All right, so then you need to get to the point. Again, efficiency is important, so you don't want to be long-winded. You might need an introduction if you don't know the person. Another reason for writing a formal is another reason for writing a formal email and having an introduction is because you don't know the person. So you tend to be more formal with people you don't know. If you're talking to somebody like your aunt or your brother or one of your friends, you can be super casual. But if it's somebody you've never met before and they're important in some way to you, then formal introduction, formal salutations and formal introduction, body and conclusions are necessary. So you might say something like, "Hello, my name is Jeremy Sullivan. I'm the professor of English language and literature at," I almost forgot for a second there. I'm a professor of English literature and language at Chungnam National University. This message is about or concerns whatever the subject is. So then get right in, after you just do that quick introduction, get right into writing what the point is, because emails are really not, if you're talking to a stranger, you're not really catching up or describing things that are funny or telling stories usually. You're just trying to get a message across. So just get into the main idea and write it, which is called the body, just like we do in writing. And then move through the explanation of what you want to say and ask your questions if you have them, or give your suggestions, or in the case that you're somebody important, perhaps you might make requests, or you might even make orders. You might tell somebody to do something, require somebody to do something, as I have done to you. I do require you to do certain things. I'm not really making orders. I'm not the general in the military. I'm just telling you what you have to do, and that's a requirement, not a request. Then you need to close your email, and that's pretty straightforward. You just need to say, I usually say best, or best regards, or sincerely. I think that's how I ended the PDF, was sincerely, Professor Sullivan, English and Language Department, Chungnam National University, and something like the date. Some people have professional signatures at the bottom. I don't have one. Mine just gives me my details and my office and my phone number and stuff like that. But some people have like an actual sort of like graphic that's stuck there. I want one now. Now that I've prepared this lecture and I've seen what some people have, it just looks cool. You can just kind of stamp. It's like having a stamp. Back in the day, I shouldn't say back in the day. That's the wrong word. A long time ago, 100 years ago, if not more, people used to seal their letters with wax. If you're a rich person, you used to, put this melted wax on the letter, and then you would press, some kind of stamp in it that had a dragon or an eagle or something like that. That's kind of how I feel like the professional stamp on the email is. So I'm going to design one. I don't have time right now, but it's on my list. Okay? And that really describes how you're going to write a formal email. Now later in the semester, I am going to ask you to write a formal email about something, but it won't be this is just an explanation of the fundamentals. So there's no topic for you to write about. So later, one of the tasks I'm going to have you do, rather than having a file, is I'm going to ask you to actually write an email about a certain topic, and then you're going to submit the email, and I'm going to give you feedback on that email. That will be a graded assignment later in the semester. And you know, the semester keeps getting extended. And so who knows when we're going to end up back in the classroom, if we do at all. This class is pretty easy to fix that way, because I can get you to do your presentation by recording just like me. And your assignments can be graded and submitted all through email. So this is a very useful lecture for you, I think. So that is all for the first part of this week's lecture. I will be making another one later in the week, Wednesday or Thursday. I will make a second one, which is going to be discussing texting. A lot of the material, if I can find the person's name, there's an article that I referred to for a lot of the stuff that I told you, not everything, but a lot of the lecture I used material from this particular person. Her name is Laura Spencer, I believe, and she works for, she's a consultant. She's a business communications consultant. So I figured she would be a good authority on this subject. So it's about 10 pages long, but there's lots of graphics and stuff, so it's an easy read. You don't necessarily have to study the whole thing, but I'll link the article so that you can see where I got some of my ideas from. And if you want to look it over, she talks about it in even more detail than I do. So you can check out that file and read it over if you like. That's going to be linked just below this video lecture on koreanheroes.com/global communication, global business communication. So you can click on that link and you can see that. The second lecture, like I said, will be uploaded on Friday, and it will be similar length, 20 to 25 minutes, and we will cover texting. The main source that I use for that lecture, the main source that I will use, is going to be a TED presentation. So that the TED presentations will come up again this semester, because there's a few of them that are very relevant to some of the topics I have chosen. So there is a particular one that I will be linking for you to watch later this week, and of course you have to tune in to watch me as well, so I can break down the ideas from that presentation for you. And that is all we have for Monday, April 6th. Take care of yourself. Continue, your good behavior and social distancing. Keep yourself clean and safe, and I will see you again later this week. Thank you very much.